Welcome back, guys, to an episode of the Hoopers Lounge with myself and Alex. I know it's been a while since we last posted a video for y'all, but we're ready after the holidays to get back to it and talk some NBA. A lot of exciting stuff has happened over the past month or so, and we are here to discuss it all. We're going to go over multiple blockbuster trades and our predictions for the All Star rosters, seeing as that the initial fan voting was just released. So yeah, we'll start with that, the All Star game, and I'll kick it over to Alex with his initial thoughts.
Yeah, the third fan voting was just released by the NBA. As predicted, LeBron and Giannis were the leading vote getters in the West and East, respectively. Fan voting, it really isn't that big of a deal because we see guys like Austin Reeves being voted as the 10th best guard in the West. So is it really all that important? Not particularly. But it does play a big part in determining the All-Star starters, which is why it's paid attention to. With that being said, we're going to be better than the fans and give actual accurate takes on who we think is going to be the All-Star game. Spoiler alert, Austin Reeves is not in it. And we'll start off with the East starters. All right, my two guard spots. I got Tyrese Halliburton and Damian Lillard. Now, they might be a little bit of a controversial take, so I'll start with Hallie. Hallie has been by far and away the best guard in the East. He is the heart and soul behind the Indiana Pacers, and their success they had this season. Currently seventh in the East when they were, I don't know, honestly, not really expected to even be a play-in team. But Halliburton has become arguably the league's premier playmaker. He regularly puts up 20 assist games to the point that we're not even surprised when he does it anymore. And 20 assists is crazy. We would never see that in the league. We've already seen it from him 4 or 5 times this year. It's absurd. Um, his scoring, his ability to always have a handle on the offense with his playmaking, his shooting ability, and despite his unorthodox stroke, then by far and away the clear-cut top guard in the East. Now, Damian Lillard, he's had a down year compared to his years in Brooklyn. I've seen a lot of Bucks fans on social media even call him a disappointment. He has not had that bad of a year. He is still averaging 26 points a game. Yes, his shooting efficiency is a bit down, but this is the first time he's ever gone to a new team. Like, this is the first time he's ever had to learn new teammates and a new scheme and new coaches and all that. I think the Bucks sitting at 20 and 13, second in the East, is a pretty good spot for them. Like, I don't think there's anything for them to really be complaining about. I think that Giannis and Dame have not reached their potential yet. They still have a lot of room to grow together, and they're second in the East. So I don't understand the disappointment arguments. But Lillard is just coming off a very good stretch. He hit his trademark game winner against the Kings. Disgusting three-pointer, sidestep on the buzzer. It was crazy. I'd love to watch it. But little bit of a controversial take there. People put Trey. I can hear that out. Maybe even people say Jalen Brunson. But to me, Dame's been the second best guard in the East.
Yeah, I don't hate that take at all. And just because Giannis and Dame haven't lived up to, that best duo in the league potential right now doesn't mean they're having a disappointing season. And like you said, second in the East, you should be happy with where you are because you're only going to get better as a team as they build more chemistry. My two guard spots in the East went to Halliburton, one. Like you mentioned, I don't need to add anything else. He's been the best guard in the East by a landslide, in my opinion. And second, I put Trey Young. I gave him the nod over Dame. I just feel like he's doing more for his team than Dame's doing for the Bucks right now. Trey is literally doing everything to keep them afloat in the play-in picture. He's shooting the ball very well. He's one of the best passers in the league. And the Hawks, the players around him haven't gotten any better, which is what we've been harping for them to do for years now. It's the only chance they're going to improve is to improve around Trey Young, and they haven't really done that. They're pretty much the same team they are every year. And I'm going to give Trey his flowers and put him in that all-star starter role. But it was very tough between Trey and Dame for me.
See, what turned me off from Trey Young is team success at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The Hawks are 17 and 22, barely in the play-in tournament, after they traded two future first rounders for DeJounte Murray, a trade that was supposed to put them in the upper echelon of East teams. The fact that Trey's defensive liability and just his inefficient games at times is costing the team wins. I mean, yes, like you said, the teammates around him aren't getting better, and it's kind of hard for a playmaker to playmate when he's surrounded by teammates who can't do anything with the rock. But it's been a very constant theme throughout Trae Young's career. Like looking at his stats right now, he's shooting his percentages are worse than Dame's. 42% from the field, 36% from three. He's shooting worse than Dame, and Dame's been criticized all year for his inefficient shooting. Yes, Trae may have a bigger burden on his back since he doesn't have another superstar at his side like Dame does with Giannis, but team success, inefficient shooting, even costing his team wins sometimes. I mean, that kept me out him from being a starter in my book.
I
But
completely understand that. I'm just gonna flip that argument to what you said about Giannis. If we're comparing team success to like every team, obviously I'm gonna rank Trey lower than like other superstars as number one options for sure. But when I'm comparing him one on one with Dame, Dame is a number two now. So all of his stats are coming off usually the second best defender on another team, most likely. Or, the coaches are game planning for Giannis before they're game planning for Dame. Now, obviously Giannis doesn't play every game and there's minutes out there where Dame's out there and Giannis isn't. But Trey doesn't have that. And for all-star purposes, I feel like it's more about individual success as opposed to team success. And Trey, to me, is having the more impressive season compared to Dame.
he is averaging double-digit assists as he's done for the past couple of years of his career. And we talked about Halliburton being the premier playmaking guard. Trae might be right behind him in second place. He is an incredible facilitator and a great scorer to go along with it. I mean, even though he's not on my list, I could definitely see the argument for him being an all-star starter. With that being said, let's move on to the front court for the East. Let's hear your three front
Um,
court starters.
this was by far the easiest section of the roster to fill out.
Yeah, let me know if we're really gonna
In no particular order, I'm taking Giannis, Embiid, and Tatum. In no particular order, like I mentioned earlier, all three of them have a case to win the MVP this year, and all three of them are like levels above the rest of the front court in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. So I'm not going to go into explaining that much more. I got Giannis, Embiid, and Tatum.
Yeah, you explained it perfectly. No further explanation needed.
All right.
Let's move on to the West. Let's go to the West starters. West backcourt. Your two starting guards. And
This
this is where it gets difficult because there
this
are 4 or 5 guards that you can make an argument.
this
For
really
hard.
this really hurt my soul to not put Steph Curry in here, but
You made the right choice.
he hasn't had a Steph Curry like year. And so that's why I'm going to talk about him a little later. But my two starting guards are Luca, who is putting together the best year of his career, and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Because of the team success that I kind of took away from Dame earlier, I'm going to put that on the shoulders of Shea a little bit because he doesn't have a second star. I know it's weird, but the same logic I use for Trey, I'm using for Shea, kind of. It's just
I'm not seeing it.
Shea is doing a
Shay's
better
stats are
job.
so much better than Trey's though.
It
Shay
is.
has
It is. That's why they're
Shay has
winning
3
more.
borderline all stars. Atlanta has
Whoa.
3 borderline all stars who are not playing like borderline all stars.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Shea doesn't have another superstar like Dame. That's what I'm trying to say. The same thing that I prop Trey Young up with, I'm propping Shea up with. It's just the Thunder are winning more than the Hawks. That's what I'm trying to get at. And that's why I put him in.
He's second seed in the West.
Yeah, very good. Very good season from the Thunder so far. And then Luca, obviously, I mean, this dude's a walking triple double at nights, which is just unfair for a dude of his size to be able to do that. But yeah, the Mavericks have struggled a little bit to win games. They've had some injury problems, but they're just very top heavy with their talent. But I'm not going to take that away from Luca. He's had an amazing season. So those are my two guards. What about you?
I got the same exact guards, Luka and Shea. Luka's currently my MVP pick. About halfway through the season, he's like you said, had by far and away the best year of his career. He's scoring and facilitating an all-time high. He's shooting over 40% from three-point range for the first time in his career. The Mavericks are sitting at 24 and 18, which that's a good record. It's only good enough for 7th in the West, but definitely no record to be ashamed of there. And even with the injury troubles they've had, Luka's missed some games, Kyrie's missed some time. They've still held together, still have a good winning record, and look like they could be a very dangerous team in the playoffs. They look like they can beat anybody. And then Shea. Shea has been, as this might sound a little weird, I would have put him in contention for most improved player. You might ask, you might wonder, he might not be improved much from last year. he is so much more improved last year. His if you look at his percentages, he went from making hold on, 47% of his shots to 51% of his shots from the field. His 3 point rating he's jumped up from 2.6 attempts to to like 3 attempts a game, and he's shooting a better percentage. His driving, that's basically his trademark. His kind of herky jerky dribbling style that's basically unguardable. I mean, how are you supposed to get in front of him when he doesn't even really know what he's doing? His mid range, if he gets to it, like he's a player that'll get to his spot, he'll rise up and he'll make that shot every time. He wasn't really able to do that last year. He looked a bit more hesitant pulling it from mid range. He wanted to settle for layups or kick it out to his teammates, which, yeah, obviously good. But this year we're seeing Shea establish himself as a top 10 player in the league, a top 3 guard in the league, and a potential MVP candidate for a Thunder team that is ready to contend right now.
Yeah, Shea's been amazing, incredible. The one thing I disagree with is the most improved take. While he is improved from last year, no doubt about it, I don't like that award being given to players who, like, I don't want to say naturally improve, but a player of his skill level is always going to get better until, he has a serious injury or, his body starts to wear down. But the guys that put in the work that like get, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes a game that improve significantly, I feel like are the players we should be discussing for most improved, as opposed to a guy like Shea that gets media attention that like naturally he's going to get better because he's just so good at basketball that he's already going to get better.
Someone like Maxime Shengun is going to take home most improved player. A bit of a spoiler alert, both of them are all stars. But did Shea make an All Star game last year? Was he in the All Star game?
Oh yeah. I think he was
Was he a starter?
no. I think he was a reserve, but he did make all pro first team, didn't he?
Yeah, he did do that.
Yeah. I don't think he was a starter though, but he definitely made first team all NBA. So,
Yeah, but this is the other team that didn't. That the only really piece they added was Chet Holmgren, and Chet has been very good. But I don't think he's the difference between the Thunder missing the playoffs to being the second best team in the West. I think the big difference there is Shea's improvement, and becoming
that's
a true
fair.
superstar for a franchise that needed one.
I
That's
also
why I'm
think
in contention for most improved
every
player. I
player
think a jump
on
from
the
star.
Thunder has improved. Every player on the Thunder has improved.
Oh yeah, they're all young. But I think a jump from star to superstar is just as important as a jump from role player to star.
That's fair. But I just think with the amount of media attention he gets, it's unfair to the other players who work, maybe harder to improve their skills because they're not as good as a guy like Shea.
Let's move on to our Western Conference front court. Starters for there. Let's hear your top three.
All right, so I'll start with Jokic, obviously. Great. Great doesn't even justify how good Nikola Jokic is at basketball. There was a pass the other day that I saw where he threw it literally over his head backwards like this to Aaron Gordon. It was like the greatest pass I'd ever seen in my life. That was awesome. I have LeBron because he's LeBron. And the final spot, I'm going to give it to Kawhi Leonard. And let me explain this one. Kawhi has been healthy for the first time in who knows how long. This guy's been healthy, and he's played the majority of the season. And he is playing very good, leading the Clippers to the fourth best record in the Western Conference, only 2 games back of the defending champion, Denver Nuggets. So this is something to keep an eye on. Ever since they added Harden and they lost like 5 or 6 games in a row, people thought this was the worst trade of all time. And now they're one of the best teams in the league right now. And that's mainly because of James Harden's ability to, fit in with his role with this team, but also Kawhi Leonard is establishing himself back into the top 10 of the NBA. Ever since he won a championship with Toronto, he's kind of fell off, top 10, top 15, but you'd have to argue for him to get in there, in my opinion. I think this season he's established himself as a guy that can lead this team to a championship, and I'm giving him the final spot in the front court.
Yeah. We have two of the same three. We have Jokic and LeBron both in. Neither of those really need much explaining. Jokic is the best player in the league right now, and LeBron James is literally invincible, ageless. I don't understand it. But my third spot, I was so close to giving it to Kawhi. I really wanted to. He ended up falling to my top reserve spot. I gave KD the third and final starting spot. And here's why. The Suns have had a bit of a down year. You know, you trade for Bradley Beal, you mortgage your whole future, you expect to contend for a championship. You looking at them now at 22 and 18, eighth in the East, eighth in the West, and you'd say that's pretty disappointing. And I'm sure KD, Evan Booker, and Beal would all agree with that, as well as the rest of the roster, coaching staff, fans, and everyone. But this team has been plagued with injuries. Bradley Beal, I think he's played 5 games this year. Like I've barely seen him in a Suns uniform. Devin Booker's missed a lot of time as well. He was my dark horse MVP candidate coming into the year. Not anymore. I don't even think he's eligible for the award anymore because of how many games he's missed. Kevin Durant, a 36-year-old with the injury history, including an Achilles tear, has been available nearly every single game for a Phoenix Suns team that has desperately, desperately needed it. And not only has it been available for every game, he has shown out. He is still showing that, even in his age 36 year, he is still one of the, if not the, best scorer in the league. Same thing with LeBron. KD is someone that age has not really affected him in his style of play and his athleticism. He's still putting up prime KD numbers. He's still putting up prime KD shots and making them. He hasn't changed his style of play at all, despite his age and his injury history. And for a Suns team that has struggled a lot more than anyone thought, that has been really needed. Also, the Jazz are on a 6-game win streak. What the hell?
Yes, they are. They are. They're playing very good basketball. KD. I'll talk about him later on. I definitely have him making the All Star roster. I just think Kawhi is at this point in their careers. I think Kawhi is just a slightly better version of KD at this point in their careers. That's just how I see it. Maybe that's because Kawhi is on a better team. Maybe that's because Kawhi is the number one and KD is arguably the number two on his own team. But again, you could see it both ways. I would not be surprised if KD got that final spot. I would not be surprised if Kawhi got that final spot. The West is very loaded compared to the Eastern Conference. All these guys are closer in skill level than the guys in the East. So yeah, KD. I don't hate that take at all.
All right, now let's move on to the reserves. Let's go back to the Eastern Conference. Let's hear your 5 reserves.
All right, so when I was writing these, I didn't really have an order, but I'm just going to go with my two guards first. I have Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson as my two reserve guards. And for my three reserve forwards, I didn't really put much thought into this. However, I'm just going to go with it because these are the three players I think have had pretty good seasons. So I'm going with Jaylen Brown for the Celtics, Paolo Banchero for the Magic, and I'm going to give it to Bam Adebayo of Miami to get the final reserve spot. A lot of these guys play as the number one option on their team. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Paolo all play as the number one option on their team, and they've, performed beautifully. Donovan Mitchell just helped the Cavs blow out the Bucks by like 40 last night. That's something you don't see every day. Bam Adebayo is playing on a team that isn't the most, exciting team to watch, but he is a constant force on both sides of the court. And Jaylen Brown is the second best player on the best team in the Eastern Conference. So that's pretty much my rationale for those five guys. They deserve to be all-stars, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, we got 3 out of 5 same reserves for the East. My top 5 are Trae Young, who you had starting, which is why he's not in your reserves. But I got Trae, Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, Paolo Banchero, and Jimmy Butler. I gave Butler the spot over Adebayo, but honestly, that could really go back and forth. Maybe it comes down to position. Maybe Adebayo gets the spot over Butler because they need a center. We'll see what happens. But Trae, like I did say he was having a down year earlier. I didn't put him as a starter. He still is having a good year. He still is having a year worthy of an all-star campaign, especially in the Eastern Conference where it's kind of depleted of star guard play. Trae gets the spot. Tyrese Maxey been the clear breakout player this year, arguably the favorite for most improved players so far. He's seamlessly transitioned with Joel Embiid after they had to get rid of James Harden, and they haven't missed a step. Currently 26 and 13, third in the East, and I'm sure they'd be thrilled to hear that's where they were, considering that everything that happened over the offseason surrounding James Harden. Brown, like you said, second best player on the best team in the league. he gets a spot. That could also go to Porzingis. I wouldn't be surprised to see that either, honestly. Um, Paulo, he's made a huge jump for a Magic team that's also made a huge jump. They've fallen off a bit. They're now eighth in the East after starting off the season really well. But after the years of mediocrity they suffered for the past ever since I don't know Dwight Howard left 15 years ago. Ever since then, they've been suffering mediocrity, and I'm sure having some success surrounded with young talents such as Boncaro and Franz Wagner is a great boost to Magic fans. And then, yeah, Jimmy Butler, like I said, Heat, not the most exciting team, but they know how to win. They'll get the job done, and they'll get an All-Star this year, whether it's Butler or Adebayo.
Yeah, I like all five of those guys. They all deserve, again, like all these guys we're mentioning deserve to be all stars. We're not throwing, borderline role players into our lists here. All these guys have had tremendous
Underrated on
seasons,
this list.
and but all these players are helping their teams win for the most part. So you want to move to the West reserves, or you want to do our wild card slots for the East next?
Let's go to the West reserves, and then we'll hit up both wild cards at the same time.
All right. All right. My West reserves. This was probably the hardest section humanly possible.
This was a pain.
Um, to
They have
find
15 players
five
fighting for
guys.
7 spots.
So the guards, I'm gonna give to Steph and De'Aaron Fox. Steph Curry is Steph Curry at the end of the day. I know the Warriors have had, for our standards, a terrible season, all things considered. But Steph Curry is still a top 6, 7 player in the NBA. And there are probably only a handful of teams that would not trade their number one star for Steph Curry straight up. So I'm putting him in at the first reserve spot. And De'Aaron Fox is one of my favorite players to watch. This kid is so versatile. He does everything well. And he is, in my opinion, the best player on the Kings, regardless of the stats Sabonis puts up. I think Fox is by far the player that scares you the most when you play the Kings night in and night out.
Is that a debate? Who's saying Sabonis is the best player?
Well, Sabonis puts up better numbers, in my opinion, all around game. But
Yeah, but
that,
you can't look at the eyes. Fox is the heart and soul of that team.
yeah, that is true. But, you know,
Sabonis is a great complimentary center for Fox, but he is definitely
Sabonis
carries
puts
the
up
team.
numbers not similar to Jokic, but like Sabonis, he can get a triple double on a every other night basis. This guy's
Sabonis
he
is a
does
walking
everything.
Jokic,
He is, and
and there's no shame. Jokic is great.
yeah,
There's no shame to be a walking Jokic.
yeah. But I'm just setting this tone straight that I think Fox is the best player on the Kings. And then for my forwards, KD, who you mentioned earlier as a starter, I said I was flip flopping between him and Kawhi, so I'm gonna move KD to the reserves. Anthony Davis has had a dominant season in my opinion, and I think he's the best defensive big man in the league. I think he's better than Embiid at defense. Um, I think he's more athletic, and his shot blocking is just as good as Embiid. So I'm going to give the edge to Anthony Davis. And then my final forward spot, I'm giving a little love to Şengün, the real Walmart Jokic. I threw him in there. This is probably the only player that isn't helping his team win enough games. However, the Rockets are better than you would think. They're almost 500. They're just on the outside of the play-in looking in. And Şengün has been a workhorse for them down low. So I'm excited to hopefully see him in his first ever All-Star game because he deserves it.
Yeah, the Rockets are currently better than the Warriors.
Yes.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, they are.
thank you for reminding me.
Thanks.
My West bench. Yeah, I got Curry as well. I mean, yeah, the Warriors are 12th in the West right now. Fans are all definitely disappointed, but Curry is still Curry. He's still having a great year, and the only reason this team has even won 18 of those 18 games is because of Steph Curry. Second guard spot, I give it to Anthony Edwards. I feel like he got the Timberwolves are the number one team in the West to the shock of everyone. I don't think anyone predicted that coming into the season. But here they are at 29 and 11 with Anthony Edwards evolving into a full-fledged superstar. Now, bit of a spoiler. I only have one Timberwolf on my All-Star roster, which is kind of strange for a top team in a conference to only have one All-Star. But the Timberwolves are a team that has relied more on defense than offense. They don't have a lot of players putting up gaudy All-Star. They're relying more on getting the contribution and scoring efforts from Cat and Anthony Edwards, and just grit and grinding against teams like the old Grizzlies. Cat, I don't think has done enough to get an All Star this year. His numbers are down as he's given way to Anthony Edwards to be the number one option. I'd even argue that Rudy Gobert would be more deserving of the second spot than Cat if the Timberwolves were to get one. But for the sake of this roster, Ant is the only Timberwolf on this list. Now for the forwards, I have Kawhi. We talked about that earlier. I have Anthony Davis as well, like you said, dominant, best defending big man in the league. And I have Domantas Sabonis, apparently the fake Walmart Jokic. Kings, I pegged him as a candidate for regression coming into the year. They have proven me wrong. Currently the sixth seed. De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis are not slowing down anytime soon. They're both they're both having very much all-star caliber seasons, and they've turned into one of the more fun teams to watch in the league, which I never thought I'd be saying about the Sacramento Kings, but here we are.
Yeah, they are a fast-paced, exciting team, and Sabonis, like I mentioned earlier, is a borderline triple-double a night guy playing at the center position, which to think about that is just insane. I think he's averaging. I know he's averaging a double-double with like 7 or 8 assists a
Yeah, he's
night.
already
So,
raking.
I mean, he's putting up nice numbers for a center, to say the least. All right, wild card slots. I'll let you go first on this one. Back to the Eastern Conference. What do you
In
got?
the East, I got Jalen Brunson and I got Scotty Barnes. Scotty, I don't know why people are not talking about him enough. The jump he's made from his second to third year, he kind of stagnated last year. Didn't show a lot of growth coming off his Rookie of the Year campaign. But he's grown a lot this year. He looks a lot more confident with his outside shot. He's taken a lot more. We've even seen him work off the dribble, hit some step back threes, which you never saw from him in his first 2 years. Um, he's still incredibly versatile. Can defend 1 through 5 on the court, defender, and is quickly becoming one of the better perimeter ones in the league. His offensive game rounding into shape. He is definitely the heart and soul for the Raptors at this point after they traded away OG Anunoby and Siakam. He is the team. They are going to be taking this year. They're going to suck, and it's all about getting Scotty Barnes as much first option experience as he possibly can. Brunson with the Knicks. Knicks are currently fifth in the East. Definitely have a very good season so far. On pace for a rematch against the Cavaliers in the first round, which will be thrilling once again to watch. See if Donovan Mitchell can get his get back. But Brunson has. I don't even think it's really a conversation anymore on whether it's him or Julius Randle. There were some talks last year about whether it was him or Randle as the best option. I think that has all been put to rest. Brunson is the heart and soul of the Knicks. He's been a star in the East ever since he left Dallas to come to New York. That max contract that they gave him is looking like a very good deal. They definitely need a few more pieces around him and Randall if they want to make any sort of noise in the playoffs. But that's not to take away from the great year that Brunson's having so far, and he'll go rewarded with his first All-Star appearance.
Yeah,
In the West, I got De'Aaron Fox and Alperen Şengün. Both of those were reserve players for years. You already explained them. I don't really need to go much into them. Fox, like I said about Sabonis, Kings are having a great year. Şengün, the Rockets are surprisingly competitive, not an easy out, and he's also contention for most improved player along with Maxey.
yeah. So, the wild card slots for the East for me were really tough because I needed to fit Dame in there because he's Dame, and my other one went to Tyrese Maxey because he is one of the most improved players in the game, and he is a superstar in the making, in my opinion. If there was a third wild card slot, though, I so badly want to see Derek White in the All Star game this year. This is my
He
pick
deserves it.
for most improved player in the league. Derek White, since he shaved his head bald in the offseason,
That's not a bad take at all.
became one of the. He is like the third best player on the Celtics, night in and night out. You get Tatum, you get Tatum, and then it's usually
Porzingis?
I think what Derek White provides defensively and as a playmaker to those players is more valuable
Bold take.
than Porzingis. That's my opinion. I think Porzingis is more talented. However, if I were to give an All-Star slot to a third Celtic, it would be Derek White over Porzingis. However, I couldn't fit him in here because I ran out of slots. But Derek White deserves to be in here, and I wanted to throw that in there.
Derek White I agree with you. I have been sleeping on Derek White as a contender for most improved player. He definitely should be in the running. I cannot believe I haven't mentioned him at all this year. All Star, yes, he is also in consideration for. He has had a phenomenal year for what has been by far and away the best team in the league. I didn't know who to put him over. There weren't any guards on the
That
Celtics
was
for him
my
at the starting
problem
or
too.
bench.
Yeah.
And I think Scotty Barnes and Jalen Brunson have both had better years. If Derek White had a bigger role, would he have a better year? Maybe, potentially. But that's a what if. We
Yeah.
can't be talking about what if when we're talking about All
And
Star.
again, I didn't put him in my
Derek
roster,
White
but
over Porzingis, I disagree with completely. Porzingis, just because of his size and stature, a 7'3" who can stretch the floor and offer elite rim protection. You don't find those players walking up and down the street every day. You're not going to find 7'3" stretch fives who can defend the rim at an elite level. And not only that, Porzingis can create off the dribble. He can post up. He is the third scoring option if Tatum and Brown are being locked up. Porzingis is the X factor. If Boston wins the championship this year, it is going to be because of Porzingis more than Derek White, I believe.
interesting. All right, we'll agree to disagree on that one. And Porzingis is no slouch in my opinion, but I'm just blown away with how much Derek White has improved this season and what he offers the Boston Celtics is truly insane to me to think where he's been in his career and what he is now. But to recap, my wildcard slots for the East are Tyrese Maxey and Dame, two players that you already touched on, so I won't really touch on them anymore. And then for the Western Conference, I have Anthony Edwards as a wild card. You already touched on him. He's been insanely good. I was flip-flopping between him and Fox, but like you said, the Timberwolves are more of a defensive team and the Kings are more of an offensive team, and I think that favors what the All-Star game is looking for, which is why I threw Fox in there ahead of Ant. But I think it could go either way there. And then for my final wild card slot in the Western Conference, I threw another Clipper in there, and that is James Harden. James Harden has been one of the best players in the league since coming over to the Clippers. And he no, I'm not. James Harden is the reason this Clippers team is like one of the biggest threats in the league. Before they traded for James Harden, this team was not.
I'm going to throw another name. Paul George.
Yes, I was between.
Paul George has been better than James Harden. He has been more of a factor to the Clippers winning this year. Did you not just see what he did in his last game? He activated takeover IRL.
Paul George was right there, but I wanted to throw in James Harden because they acquired him. Paul George has been on the Clippers, and we have seen this team fizzle out for one reason or another.
No,
But they added.
out solely because of injuries.
That's a reason. That's a reason.
Yes, that is a reason. But we have not seen a healthy Clippers team. They're so good now. It's not because of Harden. It's because they're finally healthy. They're finally able to actually build, what's the word? Chemistry as a team after 4 years of constantly overlapping injuries with another. Kawhi and Paul George have been together for 4 years. I don't think they played a full season worth of games together yet. I think the health is much more of a factor than adding Harden.
Interesting. I think Harden's the playmaker they've been missing all along, and he's finally fulfilling that role. And that's why I threw him into the final All-Star spot. You could argue Paul George for sure. He's been great. But James Harden has been the X factor for the Clippers. Health, obviously, but every team has injuries. Every team has injuries.
Yes. X factor, yes. All-Star, no. Harden is not an All-Star this year.
Interesting. I think he is, but
Wow, Harden is an All-Star. That's the first I've heard that this year.
yes,
That is certainly a take.
it is a take, and it is a good take, in my opinion. James Harden belongs in the All-Star game. That is just my opinion.
Let's move on to our next segment after that interesting opinion delivered by Matt. We've had some blockbuster trades since our last episode. Two of them, in fact, but there were three massive players on the move, all of these involving the Raptors. So, the most recent one, this actually happened yesterday. Pascal Siakam, former All-Star, former NBA champion, is on the move to team up with Tyrese Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers. Indiana gave up a lot for it, including 3 first-round picks, players that I can't really name off the top of my head. Do you know?
No, nobody significantly important. The 3 first-round picks
Oh,
is really the meat of the trade.
yeah, three first round picks. Lana Rhodes' baby daddy, Bruce Brown,
Yes, true.
and Jordan Nora. Those are the two. Those are the two.
Yeah, so I mean, nothing to hang your head about if you're a Pacers fan when you're getting a guy the
Yeah,
caliber of
the
Pascal
guys
Siakam.
aren't
It's
something to hang your head about.
yes, but I'm talking about the players is like that's the icing on the cake really. To trade for a former champion in Pascal Siakam, a guy who knows how to win, bringing a winning culture to Indiana for however long he may stay there. My initial thought on the trade was that Indiana won, just because of how much it like propels them into that contender spot this season. I think a lot of people think this team's good, but I don't think any of these people I don't think experts really thought this team could compete with Milwaukee and Boston in a 7-game series. I think with this trade of Pascal Siakam, they thrust themselves in there as to probably the third or fourth best team in the Eastern Conference, and they can now compete in a 7-game series.
See, I had the complete opposite take of you. I thought my first reaction, I thought the Raptors fleeced the Pacers. I don't think the addition of Siakam is enough to boost Indiana into even getting home court advantage in the East. The East is a very top-heavy team. Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly. I think are the clear top three. I don't think the addition of Siakam pushes the Pacers above any of those three. They didn't even go as far as to say I put the Cavs above them. I
Whoa.
think the Cavs, once they get healthy, once they get Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley back, I think they will still be better than the Pacers. Yes, adding Siakam, if you can add a player like Pascal Siakam, of course you're going to. But for 3 first-round picks, first of all, that's a lot to give up. And second of all, Siakam is soon to be an unrestricted free agent. And Indiana has had a very bad history of retaining superstars that have gone into free agency. So if they gave up 3 first-round picks for Siakam just for him to get up out of Indiana within the next couple of years, it is going to be a trade that haunts them for a while because they're not going to be able to build around Halliburton.
I think that's a fair take for sure. From the perspective of, I know we were talking before we started recording of the price Drew Holiday got when he went to Milwaukee a couple years ago was similar to what the Pacers just got Siakam for, and Drew Holiday helped him win a championship. I know it's not the same situation. I know they're not the same players. I understand that. However, rentals in the NBA are sometimes a good thing. And Pascal Siakam, I feel like, was the most valuable player on the trade market this season. And the Pacers were a team I did not expect to push for them. But by pushing for Siakam, it shows me that they want to win now. And I think they have the team that can do that. I agree that Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly are the top three, and it'll be hard for Indiana to pass any of them. However, I do think that if this team develops chemistry, they will be better than the Cavaliers, and they will be better than the New York Knicks, and they could get the fourth spot and secure home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs for sure.
Indiana suddenly become one of the teams to watch because a lot of eyes are going to be on them to see how they manage Siakam, how happy he is there, if he's willing to leave, what those first-round picks that are going to the Raptors are going to be worth. A lot of eyes are going to be on Indiana. This is definitely a huge make-or-break trade. If this goes well, it goes very well. If this goes wrong, it goes very wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is a high risk, high reward trade by the Pacers for sure. I do agree with that.
Let's move on to another trade that happened, also involving the Raptors. This one's a little bit older. Happened about a
But
month ago, I'd say. Sounds about right.
yeah, a couple like 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but this was a trade involving the two big players in this trade were R.J. Barrett and
OG.
Anunoby.
Yeah.
Yeah, they swapped teams. OG going to the Knicks and Barrett going to the Raptors. Emmanuel quickly was also in that trade going to the Raptors. And there were also some picks involved, but I don't think it was anything too great.
No.
Um, the, this the main reaction I got from this trade was that the Raptors were selling. They were selling. They were finally giving up on this core that they ran back for the past 3 years and have led to nothing but mediocrity. They're willing to rebuild. They're going to give up their veterans, their aging players. They're going to build around Scotty Barnes. They're going to draft a ton of young players. It's a youth movement now. We're going to start seeing Grady Dick in the starting lineup. Greatest last name in the NBA. And the Raptors are going to be one of the more depressing teams to watch for the rest of the season, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
On the other hand, RJ Barrett has been a blue ball for Nick since he's been drafted. he has shown flashes where he looks like he can completely take over a game, be a superstar. But he'll follow that up with 5 games where he doesn't shoot better than 20% from the field. He, the potential is there. Going into college, he was actually rated the #1 prospect ahead of Zion Williamson. And we know all the hype he got in college, so that might be surprising to hear. He got a lot of hype. He was supposed to be very, very good, an all-star caliber player in this league. He wasn't able to hit that potential with the Knicks. And I don't know if that's because he was playing second fiddle to Julius Randle and now third fiddle to Jalen Brunson. I don't know if the pressure of the New York sports just got to him. But this is a fresh start in Toronto, which happens to be his hometown. So that's definitely a boost for him. He will be a great compliment to Scotty Barnes as, they just try and get through the rest of the season. And the Raptors don't really have much to play for. It's going to be a lot of experimental minutes for the young players and RJ Barrett to see if he's a core piece for the future. But a fresh start is what RJ Barrett needed. I think he's the big winner of this trade between the two teams.
I agree with that. And RJ Barrett and both him and OG Anunoby have been playing great since swapping teams. RJ Barrett has donned the nickname Maple Jordan up in Toronto, which I think is hilarious. I love calling him Maple Jordan now. I love calling him Maple Jordan when I watch him play now for Toronto. And OG, I feel like the Knicks love Josh Hart. I feel like OG Anunoby is just a little bit better than Josh Hart at everything. And I feel like he's a bigger, taller, kind of similar shooting, but he shoots pretty much better. He can create his own shot, which is something Josh Hart really can't do.
He's much more versatile on the defensive end as well.
Yes, I think he adds that grit that Josh Hart has, but he's just better at everything else. And it's a really important piece for the Knicks to add heading into the second half of the season because last year, Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle clearly were not enough to beat the Juggernauts, so they tried to get a guy who can defend the best players in the East, like Giannis and Tatum. So hopefully OG is able to fit that role, allow Julius Randle to, play more offensively. He takes a little bit of the burden off defensively. And yeah, I think the Knicks won this trade, but the Raptors also, I think, did the right thing in getting rid of OG Anunoby.
OG Anunoby's been on the trade block for the past. He's been on the trade block since I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, I mean,
it's been years. So
yes.
It was about time that he finally got traded. I like that the Knicks are finally taking a swing. It's something that they've had to do for a while. Their fans were urging them on. But I don't know if OG Anunoby is the needle mover that gets them from a mid-tier East team to the upper echelon of the East teams. I don't think he's enough. I think they still need another piece, another borderline all-star to complement Brunson and Randall.
I think that's fair. Like I said earlier, I think Indiana's better than them now with the Siakam trade. So the Knicks probably do need another piece. I think you're right. And losing quickly, I think, is going to hurt them. However, I don't think they were going to re-sign him in the offseason anyway, so you might as well get rid of him now. However, he will hurt their depth for this season, in my opinion. Quickly's a very good spark plug off the bench guy. Give you 10 points in 15 minutes type of guy.
Reliable 6-man of the year contender.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think the Knicks' big three now of Brunson, Anunoby, and Randall, did they trade for all three of them?
No. I guess Brunson was a signing trade, so technically, yeah. They got Brunson in free agency. They made the deal.
Okay.
That it was technically a signing trade.
They traded for Randall, didn't they? And they traded for OG.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember if they traded for Brunson, but being able to get those three guys for the pieces that the Knicks had a couple years ago is pretty impressive by the GM of the Knicks. I will say that.
That's all the trade news wrapped up. You got anything else you want to add about these pieces?
No. The other minor trade is Marvin Bagley got traded in the middle of practice, which was a hilarious video. Hilarious video. He was. Gallo. Yeah, he's. The Pistons traded for two veterans to try and help them win.
And they gave him 2 second
Yeah, I do.
4 is 37.
I don't know. I don't know. They're one of the worst teams of all time. Save Cade Cunningham. That's all I have to say is save Cade Cunningham. This kid deserves to be somewhere else.
He's the stuff I missed
True.
for those 4 wins. They were absolutely mobbed.
I'm sure they were. But that's the only thing I wanted to add. And I think we'll head into crunch time now. And we're going to do the famous crossover grid. We have not done one of these in a while. This is what it looks like for y'all to follow along. All right, let's go 9 for 9 today. First square, we have a player that's played for Utah and Oklahoma City. I think, did Derek Favors play for the Thunder?
Maybe. What about Rudy Gay? Did he play for the Thunder?
Maybe. I don't know. I know both of them, the two players we just said, play for the Jazz.
No, they both played for the Jazz. I don't know if either of them played for the Thunder.
Um,
I'm
did
trying to think of the Thunder. They don't have history. They used to be the Superstars.
did
Like history like that.
did Jordan Clarkson ever play for the Thunder or just the Lakers?
No. Yeah, Lakers.
Um, uh, uh,
Let's come back.
okay. All right. All right. Next up, we have
We gotta get one. We gotta get cooking.
Utah and Memphis.
Mike Conley.
Yes, good one, good one, good one. All right, we're 1 for 1. Up next, we have Jazz and a player that was born outside of the United States. I think that's Laurie Markkinen, right?
I was gonna say Stefan Fontecchio, but Larry Martin.
I like. How do you spell that? How do you spell that? I like yours better.
Fontecchio.
Simone Fontecchio.
From Italy.
Bang! Only 5% people guessed that. I like that. I like that. All right, next up, we have Timberwolves and Thunder. I feel like
There's an obvious one, and I'm just blanking like an idiot.
I don't think there's an obvious one, unless I'm tripping. But
Timberwolves and Thunder. What's it? Reggie Jackson. Did he ever play for the? No, I don't think he never played.
I don't think he played for the Timberwolves. Did Nikhil Alexander-Walker ever play for the Thunder?
No, he was drafted by the Pelicans.
Okay. Did Kyle Anderson ever play for the Thunder?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Spur. He was a Grizzly.
Okay, well, let's move on because the next one I just mentioned is Timberwolves Grizzlies, so we'll throw Kyle Anderson in there.
That's good. That's really convenient.
All right. Do we want to go back to Timberwolves Thunder or do we want to skip?
Let's keep going. Stop the rest of them. Let's get on the
'Kay.
momentum wave, and then we'll come back to the two we're stuck
All
on.
right. The Timberwolves with a player that was born outside of the United States. Rudy Gobert, right? He was definitely born outside the United States.
Yeah, I was going to say Andrew Wiggins. All they had to do was play for the Timberwolves, right? They don't.
Yes. No, they have to play for the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like currently, you have to.
No, they don't have to.
Like actually in the career. Yeah, I was going to say Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, any point in their career, yes. Okay, next up, this is probably the easiest row. We have at least one NBA championship, and he played for the Thunder.
Well, I want to say KD, but I want to see if I can think of something better than KD. Think of a better name.
I have one for you.
Ibaka.
Yeah, there you go.
Raptors or the Bucks? I don't know.
I think he won with both, but that's correct. All right, next we have one NBA championship, and he played for the Grizzlies.
This is a bit hard. Marc Gasol. He went with the Bucks, or is it Powell? I can't remember.
No,
Powell.
Mark won with the Raptors.
Mark won the Raptors. Yeah. Powell
Yeah.
won with the Bucks. So either one.
Yes.
Either Gasol.
Okay, and then next up we have any player born outside of the United States that won an NBA championship.
Give it to the man, the myth, the legend, Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh, I was gonna go with Andrew Wiggins, but that's fine.
Dirk with the Eagles. Give him this credit.
Okay. All right, we are 7 for 7 right now. The Thunder players are really giving us problems. We have Jazz Thunder, and Timberwolves Thunder.
And everyone that's currently on the
Other than Shea, but Shea didn't. Shea did only play for the Clippers before this.
Yeah, Shea was
Yeah.
Clippers. We got Jalen Williams, other Jalen Williams,
I'm trying to think of like irrelevant
Trey
players they
Mann,
had.
Andrew
Like
Wiggins.
like they had Carmelo Anthony. He didn't play for the Jazz or the Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm.
Steven Adams never played for the Jazz or the Timberwolves.
And is Cantor? I don't think he's. Was he on the Jazz actually? I think Cantor may have been on the Jazz.
He might have been. Do we want to try Cantor, or I really think Derek Favors played for the Thunder, but I could be wrong about that.
We'll go Favors. I do think you're right on Favors.
Okay.
Cantor
Let's
right.
go. Derek Favors is right.
Oh,
All right.
legacy.
One more. One more.
For nine, for nine, for nine.
All right. Timberwolves Thunder.
And Timberwolves. If I ever needed you in my life.
I'm just. Patrick Beverly never played for the Thunder, did he?
No, he did not. Play in
um.
Was Nas Reed drafted by the Timberwolves?
Yes.
What about Jaleel or Jalen McLaughlin?
Who?
Jalen McLaughlin.
I have no idea if he played for the Thunder.
Whatever his name is.
I think
Yeah,
I have no idea.
sure.
What about Dion Waiters? Did he ever play for the Timberwolves?
I don't think he played for the Timberwolves.
Fuck. Yeah, I'm
What about
going.
Anthony Morrow?
I don't even know. I don't know.
You were not on that 2K16 grind then.
No, I was not. Probably not.
Anthony Morrow is a sharpshooting demon. That's all I'm gonna say. I wonder where he is now. Anyways, he didn't play for Timberwolves.
Thunder. This is so painful. We don't even have like a guess that we can throw out in there.
Like a player that we're even considered. These might be like both of these franchises are two of the newest franchises in the league. Both of them are so like irrelevant in NBA history.
Did Jeff Teague ever play for the Thunder?
I do not think so. That's not a bad guess though.
I'm just thinking of like players that has played for these teams before. What about Cam Payne? Did he ever play for the Timberwolves?
No, he did not. He was on the Thunder though. What about Ish Smith? He's been on like 13 teams. He's been on both.
That's not a bad guess. I don't hate that. I feel like that's a last.
Hear me out. Hear me out. Luke Ridnour.
Who?
He has the record for most NBA teams played. I think it's like 16.
Really?
I'm if there is a player that has played for the Timberwolves and the Thunder, it's going to be Luke Ridnour.
All right. I'm typing in Luke Rid.
RID and something.
Okay. From 2004 to 2015. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. We're gonna send Luke Ridnour for the victory. Because you just pulled that so far out of your ass. We're going with Luke Ridnour.
The high heavens. If this.
Let's go!
Nope. Nope.
Alex is a true basketball savant.
What a legend.
But he's a true.
Ridnour will never
The.
die.
Okay.
Never.
Thank goodness you pulled out Luke Ridnour because the most popular answer for that last box was Kevin Martin. Who is that? Who is Kevin Martin? His picture on here looks like a 2K character.
like one of them, like my league auto-generated draft classes.
Yes, look at his picture right there.
He does.
I don't know how, but
Like if I asked ChatGPT to create a basketball player.
yes, but Luke Ridnour for the victory. 9 for 9 from the boys in their return performance. Truly sensational. And yeah,
I like that.
we are back. Our goal is to post once a week, right? Probably for the foreseeable future. Yeah. So holidays are
Really get a more
holidays are over.
start a second semester.
Yep.
Once we figure this out, twice a week might be an option, but if not, we got a pretty long episode for you guys. This will be more than enough to hold
Yep.
you over until next week.
and the playoffs are soon approaching. It's not even the All-Star break yet, but before you know it, it will be playoff basketball again.
April's coming up. We got 3 months.
So exciting. So, yeah, this has been the Hoopers Lounge return episode. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.